An easy mesh lace knit stitch pattern. Hi, I'm Kristen and welcome back to my channel, Studio Knit. This mesh lace knitting is a vintage texture. It creates a really airy fabric. You'll see how it knits up flat on straight needles in just a 4-row repeat, and with a very slight change, we'll also have the pattern for in the round on circulars or double pointed needles. This stitch is a great choice for knitting projects like dishcloths, market bags, or shawls, even sweet blankets. And if you're excited to cast on this pattern and make some knitting projects of your own, please like up this video and make sure you are subscribed to Studio Knit. This texture is knitted bottom up in a 4-row repeat. It easily lies flat and it is not reversible because you'll see the back side, the wrong side of our work, is not identical to the front. For our knitting supplies, choose any yarn of your choice and appropriately sized knitting needles. You actually can even use larger knitting needles if you'd like a wider mesh, as well as having scissors and a tapestry needle. So let's knit it up. We are casting on our stitches in multiples of 2. I'm just using a basic long tail cast on method, and multiples of 2, that is an even number, so any even number of stitches that you'd like for the width of your project, here knitted flat on straight knitting needles. Row 1 begins with 1 knit stitch, and then we have a repeat there in the asterisks. We start with YO, that is yarn over. And all we do there is we're taking our working yarn, placing it in between the needles into the front of our work. Then we're going to knit 2 together. So we're placing our needle to the left of the second stitch, wrapping our yarn around counterclockwise. And then we are just going to knit it through. So the K2 together, knit 2 together, that is the decrease, and our YO, the yarn over right there, that was our increase. We're going to do it a couple more times together if this is something that's new to you. So we're taking our working yarn, placing it between our 2 needles into the front, that's the yarn over, and then we're knitting 2 stitches together. Now by wrapping this yarn around and knitting it through, it creates the increase yarn over as well as the decrease K2 together. So we always have the same number of stitches on our needle. Again, we yarn over, we're knitting 2 together, knitting it through, and repeating this stitch pattern, YO, K2 together, all the way to the end of the row until we get to the very last stitch. So here we do YO, K2 together. We have 1 stitch remaining on our needle, and all we do is knit that very last stitch. And you'll see the eyelets are already starting to begin here on row 1. Turning our needle around, we're going to begin row 2 with our yarn in the front, and we're going to insert our needle purlwise because we are going to be purling every single stitch all the way down the row here on row 2. This is the wrong side of our work, and we're simply purling all the way down the row to the very last stitch. Very, very simple, and you'll see that this pattern is really easy to memorize after you complete rows 1 through 4. So let's jump right into row 3, which is really similar to row 1, except we're creating alternating eyelets. So it's just a little bit different. Again, we are beginning with K1, just 1 knit stitch, but we go straight into K2 together, knitting 2 stitches together. So we're beginning this time with a decrease, and then we're going to increase with yarn over. And we just complete this all the way down the row. So mentally, it feels really similar to row 1 once you get started with that K2 together, yarn over, so you're decreasing and increasing. simultaneously all the way down the row. Now I want to point out one little mental trick that's really going to help. Here on row 3, it is very easy to forget the last yarn over. So every time you're on row 3, make sure that once you get to the end, you absolutely make sure to add that last yarn over. Otherwise, your stitches will begin to decrease on your needle, and you want to have the same number of stitches on your needle at all times as you cast on. And then we just finish up row 3 with that last K1 knit 1 stitch. And row 4, exactly the same as row 2. We're simply purling all stitches all the way down the row. And after finishing rows 1 through 4, we can immediately see the lace eyelet stitch pattern emerging, and we simply repeat rows 1 through 4 until your piece is the length you desire. Now here, fresh from knitting, it is unblocked, so you can see how it has a little bit different of a texture than the blocked version I'll be showing you here shortly. I like using blocking mats and T-pins. It is optional, but I think it's a really great investment. And I like to just wet block, so no matter what fiber I'm using, I simply wet it, block it to the shape that I'd like onto my mat, and usually just by letting it sit overnight, it has dried to perfection, and it just has a really nice drape, and I feel that it also photographs really nicely as well. So here's our finished swatch that is wet blocked. I also have the written pattern for you of how to knit mesh lace in the round. It's very similar to knitting flat, just a few little variations. And when you visit my website, Studio Knit, you'll see that there is a printable pattern at the bottom of the page for you. When everything is finished, it's time to weave in your ends. I recommend weaving in along the pattern, and just make sure that you don't weave in closing up any of those pretty lace eyelets. I hope you are inspired to knit up some mesh lace of your own. I have some other great lace knit stitch patterns for you. My granite lace stitch pattern is another easy 4-row repeat. And this Eiffel Tower stitch is really popular because of how whimsical it is. I have a couple different lace heart stitch patterns for you to try as well. Check out my entire lace playlist, and I will see you here next time. Bye!